Scientists help us understand the history of Earth's past is to divide it into large sections of time called eras. Some are made up of hundreds of millions of years. Now, these eras are further divided into smaller sections of time called periods. And periods are divided into even smaller sections of time called epochs. The large section of time that took place before the dinosaurs is known as the Paleozoic era. This was the time of the amphibians and the parareptiles. It began 544 million years ago and ended around 250 million years ago. The Mesozoic era was next. It began 250 million years ago and ended about 65 million years ago. The Mesozoic era is known as the Age of the Dinosaurs. That's when I lived. After the dinosaurs died out or became extinct, the Age of the Mammals began. This is known as the Cenozoic era and is the time period you are still living in today. Now that we've learned about different time periods, let's find out more about the world and what it was like before, during, and after the great Asian dinosaurs.
The Permian is really the great beginning for land tetrapod vertebrates. The beginnings of 4 different major groups can be traced right into the early Permian. What ultimately we know as warm-blooded mammals back then were rather simple. So mammals, very primitive reptiles that are equivalent to turtles or turtle ancestors without shells. Then there were the marine groups of reptiles such as the plesiosaurs getting underway, going back to the ocean. And most importantly were all the group we call the great diapsids, all the lizards and snakes and all the dinosaur group, the archosaurs. The greatest extinction in the whole record of marine life is at the end of the Permian. For terrestrial animals, it's a little murkier, but there is an end Permian period extinction. And we think it might be a climate change, the beginning of the drying out and breaking up of Gondwana land. The Triassic is really the beginning of the Mesozoic. Of course, 3 parts of the Triassic worldwide are just amazingly productive. Huge success of the mammal-like reptiles. Also, the beginnings of all the marine reptile groups. And then you could also count, by the end of the Triassic, you're beginning to see the real blooming of the Archosaurs dinosaurs group. The Jurassic is a wonderful time. It's about 50 million years long, right in the middle of the Mesozoic. And it has the full-fledged triumph of the dinosaur-archosaur complex. The last dinosaurs disappeared for reasons that were at one time mysterious. Now we know, we have a smoking gun. It was a great Apollo-class meteor that blasted through the Earth's atmosphere and threw up a huge sulfurous screen that blocked out the sun. And there must have been spontaneous forest fires everywhere on Earth. So lots of things went extinct 64 million years ago.
Okay, we've learned how scientists measure time and even a little about life during those time periods. Speaking of time, it's time for us to learn more about the amphibians, dinosaurs, and mammals in the Great Asian Dinosaur exhibit here at the Museum of Arts and Sciences in Daytona Beach, Florida. Meet Paratosukis, another amphibian. This creature was a carnivore, a meat eater like me. It lived during the Triassic period of the Mesozoic era in shallow ponds, lakes, and streams. It had eyes on the top of its head so it could see and then grab fish swimming directly above it. Paratosukis moved in an S shape like an eel, with scales on its belly and armor on its back. Moving into parareptiles, this is Scutosaurus. It was part amphibian and part reptile. It is considered the ancestors of turtles. It was slow and would sprawl its legs out under itself. It lived in the Permian period of the Paleozoic era in a very stable environment. Scutosaurus was a herbivore or plant eater and had armor on its body like today's turtles do. Titanophonius is classified as a mammal-like reptile called a therapsid. It has teeth like a mammal, meaning it has different teeth for different jobs, like you do. Some are sharp and some are flat. It had a larger brain than true reptiles and may have even had fur. Possibly warm-blooded, it was the top predator of the late Permian. Its name even means giant murderer. Titanophonius is known as a dinocephalian, or terrible head. It had a reptile-like tail and even laid eggs. When reptiles ruled the world, Gargania was the top predator of the early Triassic. This semi-sprawler was an early version of its famous relatives, the dinosaurs. It would eventually evolve over time into the famous meat-eating dinosaurs known as theropods. Its teeth were designed to crush thick skin and scales and rip chunks of flesh that Gargania would then swallow whole. This amphibian is Carnotaurus, the earliest known of all of the salamanders. Amphibians appeared on Earth before the dinosaurs. They were the first land animals and are vertebrates, meaning they have backbones. They also have moist skin that helps them to take in oxygen. Some have lungs, and some breathe through gills. They don't have scales, feathers, hair, or claws. Carnotaurus here lived in the late Jurassic, 150 million years ago. Not much is known about ancient amphibians, but it is believed that this group gave rise to our modern-day salamanders. Now we enter the true age of dinosaurs. Meet Sahelanthropus. This skeleton was discovered in 1947 in the Gobi Desert. It is a crested reptile that has an acoustic resonator or noisemaker on its head for low-frequency sounds it probably used to communicate with. This commonly known duck-billed dinosaur is part of the hadrosaur family. While it was a herbivore or plant eater, it had approximately 800 teeth. That's more than me. During the Cretaceous, Sahelanthropus grew between 30 and 40 feet tall and would spend part of its time in the water moving about with its paddle-like forelimbs. Another dinosaur of this time period, called Psittacosaurus or parrot lizard, was an ancestor of Triceratops. This herbivore was also discovered in the Gobi Desert and used its parrot-like beak to clip vegetation to eat. Psittacosaurus also ate stones or gastroliths that would grind the food in its belly and aid in digestion. Protoceratops is also an earlier relative of Triceratops. Called the sheep of the Gobi, Protoceratops were numerous herbivores with a beak-like mouth and a frill on their head for display. They were also one of my favorite meals. And now, a personal favorite of mine, Tyrannosaurus bataar, the Asian version of the Tyrannosaurus rex. The Cretaceous period was our time. We were the kings of the theropods. Our main weapon was our huge jaws and long, sharp teeth. We had powerful necks and jaw muscles, and while VT bataars were a little smaller than the T-rexes, we had more teeth, and we used them on the large herbivores that grew to massive sizes thanks to all of the newly flowering plants that they ate. We were one of the last dinosaurs to die out or to go extinct.